Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to run a registry query. In this query, we're going to query all user registry hives and look for the use of SysInternal tools. Let's get into it. So SysInternal tools can be used for good and they can be used for bad. So what we want to do is see who's using them, not necessarily flag those people and say, oh, they shouldn't be using these tools. They may have a good reason, but we want to identify who those users are and on what machines. So like I mentioned previously in past videos, there are three main keys or commands to use when you're querying a registry key. And that's load profile hives, the registry key query, and then the unload all profile hives. So what we want to do is we want to test the command for the registry query. Here we can actually do bg help and we can type in registry. If I spelled it right. And we can see the list of commands comes up. Again, like I mentioned, we have a few that we can use. The one that we're going to test on the host, since we're not going to need to load all of the registry hives on the host, we're going to use the get bg registry. So we use the get bg registry command. We're actually going to use the path, and the path here for SysInternals is hkey current users software SysInternals. Now what we're going to do with that flag is we're going to return that as an object just to test on the local host. I already know that we use SysInternals tools. BlueGenie uses SysInternals tools to do scans, so we should have a few that come back in this query, and it's very helpful to understand how that's working. So we're going to hit enter, and really fast, the registry hive was parsed for that key, and two identification flags came back. So you can see the EULA was accepted. It was tracked on this computer, so Windows 10 Dev01, and you can see that auto runs and sig check were the two tools used and processed and flagged in the registry. So we know our command works. So now what we want to do is build that artifact so that we can send that to remote machines and have those specific identifications picked up as well. So let's get into it. With that said, the first command that I mentioned earlier, we're going to do a commands add, and we're going to load all of the registry hives that are unloaded, that are hidden. So this means that any user that is not logged in, we're going to pull back. We're going to pull their user profile information and load their hives. So we just added that command. The next command we're going to add is the registry query command, the command that we just ran. So in this case, we're going to do a get bg registry path, and then the path for hkey current users, or I'm sorry, hkey users software SysInternals. We're going to put this command in double quotes, so it's the full string with spaces, and you can see the entire command was added. And then we're going to add a post command. So we want, after all the commands are finished, we want a post command to happen, which then unloads the profile hives that were previously loaded. So it pretty much puts the machine back to the way it was before this scan happened. So here we're going to type in post commands this time. Add, and then we're going to call the invoke bg unload and add that. So now if we do a settings command and we report back, we can see in our commands list we're loading all profile hives, we're running a query, a search against those machines, and then in post we're telling it to unload anything that was loaded from our first command, and that's it. So now let's stay in the console and we'll just run the artifact from here, our scan from here. So we're going to update our systems. We're going to call the group identifier and then look for the BG scan 001. It's going to add all those computers for us. So now we do a settings on that. You can see we have a full list of computers with our commands. We'll do a job ID of 22s. And again, here is our full settings configuration. If we wanted to export this and save this for later, we could. If we wanted to remove the systems, we could. But now we're just going to run this inside and see the return data from here. So I'm going to clear screen, type in run. We watch our query go out and start doing query analysis on all those machines that were in the Active Directory security group. And in a minute or two, we will have our return information for all those machines that are online. Awesome. Now that our job is finished, we can take a look at that data. So we can go into the transcripts directory. We can see that our job folder is there. We can go into completed. So here we see a list of our computers. So we have items that are around the 680, 685, roughly 663. You could see 665 or 655. Those items are offline. We do have a couple of computers online. So let's take a look at the Windows 10 JSON. Here we could do Notepad. We can open up that file. And then here we have our JSON in a compressed format, like we mentioned earlier. We're going to format JSON, scroll all the way to the top so that we can actually start parsing the information. So you can see that we had a command that was sent to the machine, start, stop, and then the invoke. So here we have an invoke of the BG load all profile hives. Here's our loaded profile hives. The items that were loaded, so the one administrator, the test lab administrator, and the public profile. The full hive list, which was identified, which is always nice to see. The unloaded profile hives. So a total number of 2 hives were unloaded. These were the ones that we identified earlier. And then we have our full hive list, which is broken down as well. But you can see that this machine, from the command that we first showed, which was right up here, get BG registry, looking for that SysInternals, there was no information found for that key. So we can see that all the profiles that were loaded, it did do a scan, but it could not find the SysInternals key for any of those users. So let's take a look at another machine. We can look at the dev, because that was it. So here we'll do Notepad Windows 10 dev. We will do a JSON viewer format to make it clean. We will scroll all the way to the top. And here is actually an interesting one. So we have, here's our command, get BG registry with the key path. Here's our return, and then the registry items. We found 30 items found in different locations that were ran for this machine. So you can see here we have Zoomit was found. We have Zoomit 64, which was found. We have a toggle key for Zoomit. So we were actually looking for anything under SysInternals. So it gave us all of the identifications that were in Zoomit, or under all the subkeys under SysInternals. So we're actually tracking all of the configuration registry keys underneath there. You can see that auto runs was enabled. We could see that sig check was enabled. So we queried a handful of items. So we could tell that this machine, obviously this is a dev computer, but we can tell that these items were ran by this SID. This SID is identified actually through this registry query as well. So if we want to look at the loaded hives, we could find out who this is. So if we just do a Control F to look for a find on that, we can actually scroll down, and not too far down you could see that that key belonged to the administrator. So it was flagged as in the administrator's source location that's where that came from. All right, well, thank you very much for joining me in this video. That's it for processing a registry query, specifically to look for SysInternal's tools used for all users on all remote machines. And I hope to catch you guys in the next video.